Welcome to the Delvin Cox Experience, the podcast in which each week I'm on a one-man mission to unite our culture through diversity. I'm your host, Delvin Cox, and on this journey with me this week is From According to Sources podcast. My man Dre, what's up, buddy?
What's going on, man? What's good? What's good?
Everything good, brother. As always, we like to start the podcast off with the 5 for 5. 5 questions, 5 answers to get the ball rolling. Dre, are you ready?
Sure. Let's go. Let's get it.
Okay. Question number 1. Who are your top 5 athletes?
Of all time or like
All
right
time.
now? Muhammad Ali,
Good
Jim
one.
Brown,
Better
Michael
one.
Jordan,
Good one.
Wayne Gretzky,
Oh, that's a curveball. I ain't expecting
and,
that
Ser-
one.
and Serena Williams.
That's a good 5. Question number 2. What's your favorite thing to do when you're not gaming or podcasting?
Man, spending time with family, watching movies. Like that's our thing. Our thing of going to see, we go to see Marvel movies like every time they come out. So, we got Black Panther coming out.
Oh,
We're looking forward to that. But that's our thing, man. Watching movies, watching TV shows, relaxing around the house. Like just, being with my wife and my kids, man. That's my thing.
That's awesome. Question number 3. What was the dumbest thing you've done as a kid?
Oh, wow. I was 10 years old. We used to have, we used to go over to my family's house, my cousin's house, and they had this little circle area, like a cul-de-sac, but it was a circle. And they had a station wagon, and everybody used to like hold on to the back of the station wagon while they would go and do donuts in that little cul-de-sac. And one time I fell off and I just busted my knee up. It was bad. It was real bad. That was the dumbest thing I've done.
Question number 4. This is a good one. It's an interesting one. Which would you choose? $50,000 or a 1-hour conversation of anyone of your choosing, alive or dead?
The conversation. I'm gonna make
Who would you
$50,000. Who would I choose?
Yeah,
Probably Malcolm X.
that's a
Probably
good choice.
Malcolm.
That's a real good choice. And that perfectly leads into my next question. Question number 5. What does Black history mean to you?
Man, that's a good question. It is a good question. It means a lot to me, and not necessarily the month. Black history is every day of my life. We're making Black history right now. You have a boy and a girl, you said. I have 2 boys and 2 girls. Years down the line, they'll be able to look at this. If you put it up on YouTube, they'll be able to look at it. If you don't put it up on YouTube, they'll be able to listen to it. Like, we're doing something that not a lot of people, I don't know how old you are. I'm 35 years old. None of my friends are doing this. None of them. Most of my friends are dead or in jail. I only know 2 male friends from grammar school that are still alive that I know of. So Black history means the future, ironically enough, because we need our kids to know what we came from so that as they go forth, they can know what they can be. Because there were people before us. They didn't think our parents. You think our parents would have expected they'd be able to do a podcast or do a radio show or anything like that? But we're showing our kids through our present, which will be their history, that they could do anything they want to do. Same thing our forefathers did before us.
That was an awesome answer, to say the least.
Thank you.
Okay. Every journey starts with a beginning, so tell us the beginning of yours, Dre. Where did it all start from?
Chicago, South Side.
Outside.
Grew up in the ghetto, man. Inglewood, not Cali. Inglewood, Chicago. They call it Chirac or whatever right now, but that's where I came from. In the ghetto, man. Hanging out with my friends, doing things you shouldn't have been doing. But unlike most people my age, I had my mother and my father. They were married for the first 10 years of my life. I have 2 brothers. 2 brothers. I have multiple brothers. I have 1 brother and 1 sister from my mother and my father. Then my father got remarried, 3 more brothers. So that's me. Southside Chicago. If you ever been to Chicago, I don't really have to say much about it. Gang banging, good food, good people, harmony, some violence. Is everything. Everything that Chicago embodies. That's what I'm about.
So what is it like growing up in Chicago? Because Chicago, for many who don't know, has so much culture behind it.
Yes. It's beautiful, to be honest with you. It's like, I know people, you'll look on the news and you hear all these things about Chirac, but I mean, to me, Chicago is just beautiful. It was segregated, but it was like, it wasn't. I got when I got out of grammar school, I went to a school. It was Polish, like Polish, predominantly Polish and Mexican. So that's all I was going. I was around when I was in high school was Polish people and Mexican people, and it was some black people here and there. I learned so much culture, so much about the Polish culture, so much about the Hispanic culture, and then like you have so many different people in Chicago that you can't not learn something. You got Chinatown. You got, it's anything that you want there. Any people that you want to learn about, you want to interact with, they're there to do it. And then it's like we have music, like some of the best museums. We got the Chicago Bulls. You got the Bears and the Cubs. You got the White Sox, though. It's like it's so much stuff. It's so much culture in Chicago. So many people have come through Chicago. Okay. Muhammad Ali was big in Chicago back when, so, it's all these big people. Malcolm X, big in Chicago. It's like it's so many big names. If you just want to dive into the culture of Chicago and the history of it, you'll find that so many people, base themselves out of Chicago. Black Panthers, Chicago. Like they're big in Chicago. It's like it's so much culture to grab onto. And and I loved it. It was beautiful growing up there, man. And I fight anybody who says differently. On the outside, from the inside, it was wonderful. It made me who I am. It made me the man that's raising my sons and my daughters to be, great young black individuals. Chicago made me.
So that's what I was going to get into next. So what lessons did you learn from growing up in Chicago?
A lot of lessons. In particular, how to be strong. You got to be strong in Chicago. The weak will be found quickly. You get weeded out that way. Chicago will make you tough. And it doesn't mean tough in a bad way. I like to think that I'm a pretty decent guy. I'm a nice dude. But I ain't to be trifled with. You're not going to mess with me. Chicago taught me how to do that. And it's worked out and not just like on a street level, just like in my everyday job level. Being able to say no in my job. I'm not doing that. Or not taking no for an answer. That's Chicago. The first thing, it's funny I'm bringing that up. The first thing when I got the job that I'm working in now, in the interview, at the interview, they always ask you, so is there anything else that you want to say? And I told them like flat out, I'm from Chicago. Like I'm not here to lose. There's no option for me losing. And I think that's the only reason why I got that job. That lady looked at me, she's like, huh. The next day they called me back and gave me the job. Chicago did that. Like I couldn't imagine living anywhere else or being born anywhere else. I couldn't do it. Now, I did leave, but I couldn't imagine being born anywhere else. I wouldn't even be the same person.
Let's get into that a little bit. Why did you decide to leave Chicago?
It's too cold.
It had to be hard.
It's too cold. It was hard. But, when I went to college, I was 18. I went to the University of Illinois in Champaign. I was down there for 10 years. I didn't come back until I was 28. So being away from home wasn't something I was, not used to. I was pretty much used to it. But, we moved back. I moved back and I had 2 kids and a wife. And everything, it's different. The last time I lived in Chicago, I was 18 and I was living with my parents or with my father and my stepmother. So it's different when you move back, you have your own kids. And, now you have your car. Like, Pops ain't dropping you off no more. You're not walking outside and the streets are shoveled. You have to do all these things yourself that you're so used to or accustomed to your pops doing. Because in Champaign, I'm in college, those are not things that I had to do. I lived in an apartment building. All that stuff was taken care of. I come back home, there's all kinds of stuff that I got to do, all types of bills that I'm not accustomed to having to do all these different things because now I have kids. It was different. So we lived there for about 4 years. And we had a real bad snowstorm. I walked outside one day. And, it was like 5 o'clock in the morning. I was getting ready for work. I got 2 cars. I shoveled the path to my car and my wife's car. I went back in the house. Get ready. When I walked back out, it needed to be shoveled again. That was when I was like, man, we're leaving. We out of here.
That's crazy.
Started looking at places. I had a friend that had moved down to Snellville, Georgia. He told me it was nice down there. We moved down and, we love it, man. I be barbecuing in December. It's cool.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I visit every now and then, though.
That's cool. So What is one of the main misconceptions people have about Chicago?
Violence, really. It's not any different than any place else. It has its good parts, has its bad parts. If you know where you're going, nothing will happen to you. I've never been shot at. I've never been harassed by police. I've never been robbed. None of the bad things none of that stuff has ever happened to me because I've never put myself in a position for anything like that to happen. Like, okay, and back in the day, if you go into Cabrini Green, which was the projects, it was a project, Cabrini Green. If you go there at night, there's a good possibility that something's going to happen to you. And if it does happen to you, well, you kind of knew what you were getting into when you went there. You know, it's not as bad as people make it out to be. To be honest with you, Chicago, violence-wise, was worse when I was younger than it is now. Like, you're talking about people like 500, 600, 700 people getting killed in a year back in the 90s. Now it's like 250, 300 people, and everyone loses their mind because yes, that is a lot, but not when you factor in how many people live in the city and how many people were getting killed 10, 20 years ago. It was ridiculous back in the 90s. You couldn't even walk down the streets, it felt like.
Yeah. So let's get into what you do. You're a podcaster or mini podcast.
Yes.
Main one, according to sources.
Yes.
What is according to sources for those who don't know?
According to sources is a website first and foremost. When I built the website, it was really for Black people, or young Black men, to have outlet for their sports opinions or any opinions in general, whatever you want to talk about. That's what it's for. You're the source, spit it out. Then it became a podcast, which we do podcasts as much as we can. Doing one tomorrow. The podcast is really just to talk about sports, man. We get on and whatever's happening in that particular point in time, we're talking about it. But it was really the crux of according to sources is just to get people who would generally not have a voice to voice their opinion, and have people listen to it and hear it, and understand it. Because, like I said, before we jumped on the podcast, I was talking about Black people are very underrepresented in every area of life, but in particular when it comes to journalism, sports journalism in particular, podcasting, sports podcasting in particular. We play the sports, but we don't get to talk about it. The same way that we play the sports and don't get to coach them or own the teams. If you look at the vast majority of people that are doing sports journalism or podcasting, they're all white. And I don't understand why that is the case. And it's not just sports, video games, movies. It's white. It's all white. And I think that we should have more, not just Black, but people of color in general. And that's what I wanted. So when I started according to sources, it was, it's for everybody: Black, white, Latino, Asian, whoever wants to come in and voice an opinion. I want it to be primarily for us, people of color, but it's all encompassing. Whoever wants to come in and write. If you want to do a podcast, come do a podcast. Get your opinion out to people. It's important that people hear you. Otherwise, you'll get swallowed up.
One, I don't think I never told you this, but the name according to sources is one of the best names for a website I've ever heard in my life.
Oh, man, thank you.
I mean, like, when I first heard the name, I'm like, that's not taken by somebody else?
Man.
It's like an ESPN thing or something like that?
Nope. It was amazing, yo. I had a way worse name picked out. It was Sources something. And my wife was like, and I went and looked for it, and it was taken. And I was like, man, people always say according to sources. Like, I'm going to take it. And looked it up. Nobody had it. Well, you know what? They had instead of the number 2, they had the TO, according to sources. That was taken. So I threw the 2 in there. And that was it. It worked. But thank you, man. It was definitely a secondhand name. It was not the first choice.
And think about think about not only the podcast, but it's when you look at the name and the logo, it has to feel like, and this is giving props to you even more, like how Nike feels, or how like it doesn't feel like, how you have certain logos that feel like Afrocentric.
Yeah.
According to sources, feels like it's for everybody.
Thank you.
First look at it.
Yeah.
And that's very cool. So
I appreciate that.
Definitely. That. So how did you get to this level where first of all, how long you been doing according to sources for?
Um, to be honest with you, I had the website. The website has been like 4 years. The podcast has been like 3 because I started the website. I was writing every day. It was just me. I was writing like 10 times a day. And I had a friend. Do you follow ETMF?
Oh, that's my boy, Sean.
Yeah, Sean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sean hit me up like, yeah, me and Derek they're talking about doing a podcast. Can you help us? And I was like, oh, okay. We started doing the podcast, ETMF podcast, and at the beginning, according to sources, was just a section of that. Like we stopped, or here's the according to sources piece where we're talking about sports for a little while. We did that, and then just branched it off from ETMF. At first, it wasn't even a podcast. I mean, we weren't even doing a podcast. It was just a part of the ETMF podcast. And I was like, you know what? I think it's just time for me to just do my own so that we can just focus on, video games, pop culture, whatever over there. And then over here is just, specifically sports. And it worked out. I mean, we do well, and not as well as I would like, but, I'm working on that. I'm working.
Definitely. So how did you even get introduced to podcasts? Because like you said earlier, it's not like you have a lot of black podcasters doing their thing that you hear about.
When I was at work every day, I would listen to First and 10, Mike and Mike, all of those guys on ESPN. I would listen to them, and then I would listen to I would hate listen to the Jason Whitlock podcast.
Oh God,
I would hate listen to it because I hate that dude. He hates us too. We talk about he hates us. He hates according to sources. He's blocked all of us. But he's blocked everybody affiliated with it except for the actual according to sources tag. I don't know why. But I was listening to that, and I was just sitting in my cubicle and was like, I could do that. Like all they're doing is talking. And I talk all like we as a people, we talk all day. We could be I could be entertaining. And I just said, hell with it. I'm doing it. And that was it.
And that's a great mindset to have for it and lesson to everybody. Like you had an idea and you just said, I'm doing it.
Yeah, I didn't want to waste any time. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done it at all. That's just the way I am. If I sit on it, it's not going to happen. But if I make a decision to do it right then and there, I'm going to do it. And that's what I did. I'm going to do a website. And I told my wife, I want to say, so we've been doing this like 5 years. I told her in April of 2012, I'm going to do a website. By May of 2012, it was a coming soon. I bought the domain and I had hosting, and then by June it was up. That was it. If I say I'm going to do it, I'm focused on it. I started doing it, and like you said, I think that's a good thing for anybody. If you have the idea, it's better to do it immediately while it's still fresh in your head. Because if you wait a little bit, you'll forget half the stuff you want to do, and it won't be as good.
Definitely. Now let's get back into what we was talking about before we started the podcast. How important is it for us to hear our voices in podcasting and support each other in podcasting?
It is extremely important. It is extremely important because if we don't support each other, who's gonna do it? That's why the thread was so important. And I don't know if you've talked about the thread on your podcast.
I talked about it a little bit when Justin was on the podcast a couple weeks ago.
Okay, well, the thread was good, and it was a great thing because as black men, we need to support each other. Nobody else is going to support us. Nobody else does support us. Like we are an island more often than not. Sometimes of our own choosing, our own making, but a lot of times not. So we have to be able to hold each other up, find ways to hold each other accountable for the things that we say, the things that we do. And to just be there. Like, this is just the dope thing. I'm going to have you on my show very soon because this is the way this is how it does. This is what we do. We build a friendship. We start interacting with each other, and then we find ways to make it together. And it's important for younger generations to see us come together and do something positive. Because I didn't really get to see that growing up. I didn't see a lot of black people doing podcasting or radio or anything, journalism. So I didn't know this was something I could do until I got older. It would be dope if people that are 15, 20 years younger than us are listening to us and then realizing that young, hey, I can do that too. And then they start doing it. Not when they're 20, Not when they're 25, but when they're 15. Those are the important things. That's why this is important.
Definitely. So who are some of your influences with your podcasting? Like who are some of the guys you look like, yeah, this is the dude I want to be like or kind of like be above him?
When I first started thinking about doing podcasting, it was Bill Simmons. Because I would listen to his podcast, and it was like it felt his podcast or just his show in general. It just felt authentic. It always felt like, okay, this is just a regular dude talking to his friends, and I always wanted that to be the feel for when I do my podcast. That's why when we talk on our podcast, I want the guys to come on. Like, don't start talking to me like, yeah, this is the way that I feel. This I don't want that, man. That's not how you talk to me on a regular basis. You talk to me like I'm anybody else. So don't get on the podcast and talk to the people like they're anyone. Talk to them the way that you talk to them. Yeah. So that's like I wanted the Bill Simmons feel, but I wanted it to be more, I guess for a lack of word, black. I wanted it to be us, not anybody else. So it was like people like Bill Simmons, Michael Wilbon when he had the I don't even know if they still do what is it, PTI? I don't know if they still do it. But Michael Wilbon was another guy that I used to look up to. He's getting real old and seems like a hater now that I've gotten to really read into some of the things that he said. He has some real hating tendencies. But back in the day when he was a younger dude, I looked up to Mike Wilbon. Michael Smith is another dude. Bomani Jones. Bomani for real, because Bomani was really the blueprint for what I wanted to do, because he had the Evening Jones. And that was black.
Yeah.
The Evening Jones was black.
Unapologetically black.
Unapologetically black. And I was like, okay, I see that guy doing this. I want to do that. And those are the people I looked up to. Still do.
That's awesome.
So and everybody in the thread. Everybody in the thread. Even if I disagree with 99.99999% of everything they say, I look up to them.
Which can happen.
Yes, and it does frequently.
Yes. So what do you think the future holds for according to sources?
I'm sorry, you one of the words went out.
I said, what does the future you think hold for according to sources?
More podcasts, videocasts, vlogs, more access to sports. Like I'm trying to right now. I'm working to get my friend that lives out in California who writes for me. He wants to go to WrestleMania, so I'm working on Joe Villa. I'm not going to give his number out, but his name is Joe Villa. He's the media relations guy for WWE. So I'm trying to get him in. And we get credentials for the Chicago Bears. I'm trying to get credentials for the Atlanta Falcons since I live in Georgia. I'm trying to get the Bulls. The Bulls are so hard. They're so difficult, but I'm still working on the Bulls. I'm working on getting a foothold in like the Midwest. So I have people in Chicago, Indiana, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I have people up there in those areas, and I'm trying to get a foothold in those areas. So for us, me in particular, because it's my thing, it's just more. I want my face to be out there more. I want my name to be out there more. So I'm trying to get, other people that I wouldn't necessarily have talked to get them on my show. And to do that, I know there are some things I need to do with the show, language-wise, reel it in a little bit. But, it's just going to be, I'm trying to do more than what I've done the years before. I don't want to stagnate. And I feel like I'll be able to get there.
Who are some of your dream guests to have on the podcast?
Oh, man.
Or even just to sit down and talk with.
You want to know who I really want to talk to? I want to talk to Kobe.
That's a good one.
I want to talk to Kobe. Somebody I really want to talk to. I'm a homer. I still want to talk to Derrick Rose. I want to talk to Derrick. Those are the two. It was always been Kobe because I found Kobe's. I've always found his mind to be very interesting. The way that he speaks about the game, it's always intelligent. It's always well thought out. And I've always wanted to pick his brain about just the game of basketball. If I ever get to talk to Kobe in person, man, wouldn't nobody be able to tell me nothing.
I've always found Kobe to be interesting because his career path, we kind of got to watch him grow up
Yes.
and
Grew up
mature.
with him. Yeah, we grew up with Kobe.
Yeah. Yeah, in so many words, we grew up with Kobe. So I think that would be real interesting to hear somebody just sit down and talk with him and have a real conversation with him in terms.
Yeah, because a lot of times the conversations are just like on some other stuff, and I'm like, what kind? Like, why are you asking him that question? Like, ask him an actual, real question. I want to hear real answers, and even if it's not something that's on, that's recorded. These are just people I want to actually sit down and just have a conversation with. You drink. What's your drink? We're gonna have that drink. We're gonna sit down and we're just gonna talk because I enjoy talking. And even more so, I enjoy listening. So, being able to listen to somebody like that talk about the game of basketball would be awesome. Oh, and Scottie Pippen. We'll let her talk to Scotty. That's my
That'd be a
third
cool
one.
one too.
Yeah, that's
I
my third.
don't hear too many Scottie Pippen interviews too. So
Nope, he doesn't do a lot of them because he can't really. He doesn't talk very well. He doesn't speak very well, so he doesn't do a lot of interviews.
definitely. So let's get into a little bit more things like ETMF Podcast Network. How'd
Yes.
you guys link up?
I went to college with Sean, so I've known Sean. I mean, we grew up together. I've known Sean since I was 18 years old. I'm 35. Obviously, that's 17 years. We've known each other for 17 years. Um, that's how I know him. But like I said, I'd already had the website, and him and Derek. Do you know Derek? Derek Nelson.
I don't know Derek. Yeah, I've heard of Derek, but I
Heard of
haven't
Derek? Yeah,
necessarily.
Derek's whack. Yeah, Derek's whack. But they came to me because they needed help with the website so that they can do the podcast. And I was only supposed to be a guest on that show for maybe one or two shows, and then I was going to be out. But it didn't happen that way. We did the first show, and I was there. Then we did the second show, and I was there. And then it was just like, okay, it's this. We are ETMF. It's me, you, and Derek. Me, Sean, and Derek. Then Derek dropped out, and we picked up Margie, and that was it. ETMF.
And now y'all got According to Sources, Games You Don't Play, ETMF. Am I missing one?
You missing a few.
Yeah, it's a few of
There's
them.
a few of them out there that I can't even remember because they haven't really
They're not
done
regular.
them. Yeah, they're not regular. There's Iman used to do movie podcast
I
on
remember those.
ETMF. Yeah, and we had a music one with our boy Jarvis. I think it was on repeat.
I
I
think so.
think that was the name of it. But he doesn't really do it. Then there was this other pop culture one that I think we did one or two shows, and then Margie and her friend, I can't even remember her friend's name, but they had a podcast that they did. So there's people coming in and out. People come in and out of the ETMF podcast network, and that's kind of what it's for. You have a podcast, come in here, do it, and we'll help you, disperse it. You want to help people. I think it was like I said, like according to sources is specifically about this one thing, but ETMF is more general. We want to disperse good topics and good conversations and get people out there. And that's why we're here to help. There was a wrestling podcast on there called New Wrestling Order. That's another one. And they do podcasts obviously just about wrestling. So it's we want people to be able to get their message out. I think we took the ETMF or the according to sources like that manifesto of trying to get people to listen and get people to hear, and then we just we made it the ETMF thing. We're here to help people live out your dreams.
It's awesome. Final question. How excited are you for Black Panther?
Man, I already bought tickets. I bought tickets already. $41 for me and my family.
Whew.
I cannot wait. It's I can't even describe how important that movie is. We've had black movies before, but this is the first black Marvel superhero, period, in his first movie. And
Have you ever read the comics?
Man, if it's funny, I have tens of thousands of comic books. I am a comic book nerd since birth.
I am too.
Yeah, comic book nerd, video game nerd, movie nerd, all of that. video games. It's all encompassing. So yeah, man, one of these days I'm just gonna whip out the comic books because I have them in these big plastic totes, like the huge ones. You know the one. Yeah, so it's like two of those. I'm just gonna whip them out. I'm gonna line them up. I'm gonna take a picture and I'll just send you a picture. It's tens of thousands of these books. And that's not even all of them. I still have some back in Chicago because I couldn't fit everything into my U-Haul when I moved down here. So yeah, definitely big in the comic books too, man. Big.
That's awesome. Final question.
Okay.
Did you get a chance to watch Black Lightning?
Me and my wife just watched the second episode last night. We love Black Lightning.
Awesome show.
It is a great show, and it's not for kids.
Not at
which
all.
I was not expecting. I was
Me
not
neither.
expecting that. We had our kids in there watching it. The first one we had our kids watching. You're like, you got to go. You can't watch this. You can't watch this. I don't know if I can watch it.
Yeah, I noticed that around, I want to say the second and third episode, they really like, it's weird because it's on the CW.
Yes.
And it's nothing like, it's nothing like the Arrowverse shows.
No, they're like kind of kiddie.
It's part of that universe.
Yeah, but those are kiddie shows.
Yeah.
Like, even Arrow doesn't kill people like this. Like, that Lala dude shot that. I mean, I don't want to, spoil anything for people who haven't watched the show, but they're shooting and killing people, and they're showing it. Like, there's no holding back. It's so good, though.
It's interesting because that show is like what people think Chicago's like.
It is, but man, it's like people think that Chicago is like Gotham City or something. And like people just out here killing, looting. We need Batman to come and save everybody. No. People live in Chicago like any other place and be cool, but that place is terrible. I don't know how anybody lives there.
Yeah.
The 100 is that what they were called? The 100?
Yeah, the 100.
Yeah, they're terrible. Tobias is a monster. I didn't read Black Lightning comic books. So does he have powers? It looks like he has powers.
I think he's strong, if I'm correct.
It looked like because once again we don't want to spoil anything, but when that happened, he did it so easily. I just assumed that he had super strength.
If I remember correctly from the comics, I didn't read that much Black Lightning because I was into Milestone comic books.
Oh, okay.
Which is a whole other story alongside of it either way. But I think Tobias was supposed to be more like Kingpin.
Okay, I can see that. That dude is scary looking too.
Yeah, he is, and
he sounds scary. I like the first episode. I was kind of like iffy on him, but by the second episode, I was all in on the villain.
Yeah, I definitely like the villain.
It kind of reminds me of Luke Cage in that sense.
I love Luke Cage until the big thing happened.
Yeah,
in the middle.
Yeah, then it wasn't as good anymore.
Yeah,
nope, wasn't even close to being as good because that guy is such a good actor, and
the other guy wasn't.
Yeah, he wasn't. You just came out and said it.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this spade. I want to say the first 5 episodes of Luke Cage were some of the best TV episodes I've seen.
Yeah, it was definitely the first 5 episodes were the best of the Defender single shot shows. Those first 5, but it just didn't keep it up with on the back end.
When they changed the villain, that's when it kind of went downhill. And even though the ending of it was really good,
yeah,
the ending, not like the fight or anything like that. The ending part was cool. I was like, oh man, why did they change the villain?
Yeah, because he's such a good actor.
Yeah,
he just he has a magnetism about himself when he's on the screen. It's hard. It was hard for that show to pick itself up after that. So let me ask you a question.
Shoot.
Favorite superhero?
This is hard because Captain America.
Wow.
I love Captain America.
Okay, let me ask you this. Do you like the comic book Captain America more or Chris Evans' version of Captain America?
That's a hard choice because I'll put it this way. I like Chris Evans' Captain America probably the most, but right below that, I like the Falcon version of Captain America.
Falcon Captain America was dope. Falcon
That was
Captain
a
America
dope
was
story.
dope. It was a dope storyline. That was a dope storyline. I don't hear many people, but you know what? I won't say that because since the Marvel cinematic universe has come along, I have definitely seen Captain America rise on to the level of like, you know, Iron Man, Hulk, Spider Man. He's
Yeah.
definitely made his rise up there.
And when I was a
Captain America.
kid, he was one of the first comic books I ever read, Captain America. So I fell in love with that character from then, like Captain America, Ghost Rider, Batman, of course.
I'm a Spidey man.
I love Spider-Man too.
Spider-Man is my favorite superhero, man. When those movies came out, we was there front and center, me and my brother. Every single movie I go to see him. Every single movie I go and see him. Even the bad one.
So which one's your favorite?
Probably Spider-Man 2 with Doc Ock.
That's a good one. That's a really good one.
And then after that, this the newest one. This one was really good.
Yeah, I like the newest one.
This kid is he's good. He's a good Peter Parker. He's a good Spider-Man.
And that's hard to do.
Yeah, it is. Ask what was the other kid's name?
Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield.
Ask Andrew Garfield. He couldn't get that Peter Parker thing down. He's too cool.
Spider-Man down, right? Pat.
Yeah, he's too cool to be Peter Parker. Peter ain't supposed to be that damn cool.
Exactly.
You ain't fooling nobody. You ain't Peter Parker.
Definitely. Before we go, let us do something cool and let's give a shout out to some of the podcasts out there that we listen to that we know. People that we know that podcast.
Brothers Layman, BTG,
Ball.
Ball. Man, Ball, those are my dudes, man. Ball are my dudes. Obviously ETMF, Jarv, he got the gray area. So those are my guys, man. I try to listen to all of them. Obviously, ain't enough time in the world to listen to all of these podcasts, but
true.
I give every single one of them a download every time they drop a podcast, and I try to listen to as many of them as I can. If I don't listen to them on the last one and I listen to somebody else before, I just switch it up. I try to give everybody a listen. So those are my dudes. Even I don't know if you follow Geeks Worldwide. My boy Casey. Their podcast. Listen to anything they do. Them dudes are just doing awesome work over there.
Yeah, I think they have a podcast on there. Who Would Win?
Yeah.
I love that podcast.
Do. Yep.
I listen to that podcast religiously now.
That's Casey, my boy. I mean, he was just on the last ETMF or maybe the one before that. Games We Don't Play.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, Games We Don't Play. My boy Chalfie. I'm trying to think who else has Chalfie. Chalfie sucks. Chalfie sucks. Who else? I mean, there's so many different people, and if I can't remember you, believe it's really just my mind. I'm getting old. It's not my heart. But I have a lot of people that do podcasts, and all of them are good. They're all good in their own way. So I definitely invite people to go to the ETMF network and try to find somebody. Look us up on Twitter. Look at the thread and find any of those guys in that thread and give their podcast a try. And most certainly listen to According to Sources.
Definitely. I think you said it all right there, man. Any last words?
No, man. That's thanks for having me on, and you guys, any of your fans, your audience, look forward to him being on the According to Sources podcast so we can talk sports. He be up in the thread talking a lot, man. He be saying a lot of stuff, so we got to get him on the According to Sources podcast so we can actually get it on wax.
Definitely. I'll be honored to do that.
Next podcast, not this one. We got one tomorrow with, I don't know, BTG just be jumping in. So it's probably that just be jumping in, man.
Oh,
I be talking to Chris and he'd be like, yeah, so BTG say he's down to do the podcast tomorrow. And I'm like, wait, I'm the editor. Like, this is my thing. How y'all making choices on podcasts I don't even know until the day of? I'm joking around, but yeah, BTG will probably be on or somebody. But definitely next week, if you have time, man, we be honored to have you come on.
Definitely. Thank you. I'll definitely do that. All right.
Word.
As always, Devil Cock Spirits, we out. Peace.
Peace.